Hey Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 393.
Yeah!
Welcome to another episode. We hope you are all keeping well and safe, and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. Oh, he beat me for a change.
I feel like you let me win that one.
My lips are sealed.
I feel like you let me win
on that
anyway.
one. I thought I'll leave him just a half a second more before I jump in. But yeah, nice one, dude. So this is 393 of the Big Blue Box podcast. Hopefully you listened to last week's episode where we reviewed Destiny of the Daleks, another Tom Baker story. We're getting through the Tom Baker stories now. Oh, yeah.
We are, yes.
Oh. Yeah. We've got another one this week for this episode. Then we've got a bit of a break, and then we're back with some third Doctor action, and then back on the fourth Doctor. So the reason for that, Adam has explained this before. If you are new to the Big Blue Box, then this will hopefully make a bit of sense, especially if you're going to go back and listen to any of the back catalogue. But long-time listeners will know that over the years that we've reviewed, we're almost there, by the way, we've almost reviewed every single story of Doctor Who. So we're at the last little batch of them now. But the problem is that because Tom Baker was obviously the longest, his era was the longest out of all the actors to play the Doctor, he has a lot more stories. So although we've tried to sort of space them out and even them out a little bit, it's difficult to do. So we have done a few things in the past where we've dedicated an entire month here and there to Tom Baker stories. There's still, 4 or 5 more of his stories to do than the other Doctors that are left. So that's why we're doing a little bit more of Tom's stuff at the minute, which is no bad thing, of course. It's not a bad thing. So that's why, if you are new here, you think a new listener might be like, oh, come on, doing a lot of Tom Baker. Thought you'd do some other Doctors. We will. We've got some other ones to finish up on. And one of them is particularly sad face moment for me. Particularly sad face. But we'll get to that in a few weeks' time, I think.
Oh, is that?
Yeah. No, don't say it. Don't say it.
All right. Okay.
No, I can't handle it this week.
You old softy.
Yeah. Coming up on today's episode, then, we've got a couple of news bits to talk about, which is really cool.
Wow.
It's been dry for so long. We've just gone for weeks.
Tumbleweeds.
Yeah, just tumbleweed weeks for about 5-6 weeks now, where there's just been nothing significant coming out of the BBC or from Bad Wolf Studios or Russell. But we've got a couple of little nuggety bits to talk about. So nothing huge, nothing too big, but alas, we're back in the game, so to speak, with some news. And then we're going to move on to our review of the fourth Doctor story, Meglos. Mm-hmm. We'll get onto that. Before we get onto that, though, how have you been, buddy? And your time, because Adam's over in the US. He splits his time between the UK and the US. He's over in the US at the minute, in the heart of Texas.
That's it.
Probably drinking a Lone Star beer. Probably got a cowboy hat on as we speak.
Yeah.
But what have you been up to? Anything Doctor Who related, dude?
I have to be honest, it's been a bit of a quiet week for me, mate. I haven't really been doing much Doctor Who related. I raced up to my local half-price books a couple of days ago because I saw they'd gotten a Target book in stock. That's been like the highlight of my week, is checking their website and seeing, because they're about a 20-minute walk from me, 25-minute. So I just keep checking their website, and every time I see they got a new Target book in, I race up there. So I managed to pick up Arc of Infinity, a battered up old copy of that for $2 the other day, nice. Which is cool. It's got a really rubbish cover though, because that's the thing I love about the Target books, is they've normally got, it's the artworks that you love about them, but this one is just a really bland picture of, is it Castellan or whoever it is shooting the Doctor. It's like a badly cut out photo, so it's not even an artistic cover. So anyway, grab that. So that's another one for the collection, another one to bring back in the suitcase. But apart from that, mate, I haven't really done anything this week. The only other exciting thing for me is that I got a dispatch email literally about 10 minutes before we started recording. So my season 15 set has been dispatched, ready for the old postie to shove through the letterbox a couple of times and batter up that case, ready for me. So that'll be waiting for me when I get back in about, well, when I'm back in a month or so's time. And I'm really looking forward to that set, actually, mate. I think it's an unusual season, but I think, you know, the new extras are always great, aren't they? So that's something for me to look forward to when I get back to the UK in 5 or 6 weeks' time. I'll be able to get the behind the sofas on and enjoy that. So yeah, it's good to get that dispatch email. Have you had yours dispatched yet, mate? Or
I've not. No. I pre-ordered mine from Amazon, and according to Amazon, I checked it this morning. Apparently, it says release date is Monday, the 18th of March. So I imagine it will be dispatched on Saturday,
probably
Friday or Saturday, and then arrive in a battered, crumpled heap. All the corners dinged in and all the rest of it on Monday at some point. It's always a nightmare when these box sets get released because I'm half tempted just to stay off the socials for Monday. Actually, no, I'm half tempted to stay off the socials from Friday because no doubt there'll be some retailers who have dispatched them early. And so Instagram and all the rest, it will just be filled up with people's their little smug faces as they're unboxing their Series 15s and showing how, you know, how great it is, and I just bugger off.
Actually, I've already seen a few people post pictures of it. I think most of them may be so like Mark Ayres has got his, but obviously he worked on it. So what do you call them? Like, I think the ones I'm seeing are complimentary ones to people who worked on it, like Chris Chapman's got his. Lee Binding has posted a video of him sliding his copy into its slot, and so I see a few people have got them. And I saw a YouTuber who I don't know had done a review of the set already, so he must have got an advanced copy of it. So yeah, so already my timeline is filled with people who've got it, who are showing it off. So I might do the same as you, mate, because it'll be some weeks before I get to see mine, so I might just
unbelievable that is. I saw Lee Binding's I think it was TikTok or Instagram where he has that thing where he slides it in and then gives it a little stroke and stuff. And I saw Mark Ayres one, so I assume that those guys just got their copies because they worked on them, of course, which is a nice little bonus. But that's unbelievable that YouTubers are getting copies. The BBC, especially this department that makes these box sets, always complaining they've got no money to do anything. And they're sending out, you know, advanced copies to people. What are you doing?
But the thing is as well, these sets don't exactly need any promotion. They sell out anyway.
Yeah, of course.
Like if it's a product, do you know what I mean? But it is what it is. You talking to TikTok, mate, as if I couldn't hate that app anymore. Because I don't.
What's going on?
I'm such a technophobe that I don't know how to use it. And I've tried to post a few little Doctor Who videos. And then the other day I was just checking out my TikTok because I still get notifications. I'm like, oh, well, it's nice to know that even though I've done, because my videos are like the bare minimum, I might put a bit of music on it and if you're lucky, and that's it, because I just can't work that stupid app out. But some people do, like the videos twist and turn and it's like a million cuts, and they really go for it and they add loads of text and things, and I have not got the patience for it. Anyway, so I checked out my TikTok the other day because I got some notifications, and I realized that about 10 of the videos have been muted. I'm like, muted? So basically the music I've used, for whatever reason, has been found to be, I don't know, I guess copyright infringement. So they've removed the music from from half my videos. And I'm like, well, why are the songs on there for me to be able to use? So I've had it with that app, mate. I freaking hate TikTok. I don't get it.
You've had it up to... Yeah.
It's an age thing, mate. It makes me feel old, that app. Even opening it makes me feel old.
Yeah, it's definitely for the young'uns, that one. I created an account on there for the Big Blue Box, last week actually, or the week before.
Oh, really?
with a view that I might start posting some things on there, like, you know, just sort of little run-ups to when an episode lands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Another little tidbits. And yeah, I'm with you, mate. You open up the area to compose a new TikTok or create a new one, whatever it's called. And it's like, yeah, it's like my son at college has just done it after he's just eaten a big lunch and is half asleep. It's just full of like the UI is random, and it's I don't know, makes us sound incredibly old. I realise that, but yeah,
well, it does, because I only downloaded it because when I was working at HMV, we had to post on it, so I had to learn how to use it. And so they'd say to you like, "Oh, go and take a TikTok, go and do a TikTok video of those new releases." And like, you know, the girls who worked there would do it in like 2 minutes. And they'd put a video up and it'd be all flashing and moving around with text and music. I'm like, oh, they're like, oh, it's really easy to use. And I'm like downloading it. And here I am all these months later, trying to figure out how to even put some music on, which gets removed. I'm just like, yes, I just feel it's a young'uns thing, and they're all the, I'm not down with the kids and I don't want to be. I don't want to use it. I don't like that app. They're talking of banning it over here in the US anyway. So, I might not have to worry about it much longer.
Yeah, you read my mind. I was going to say it's you might be banned.
Before it gets banned.
Yeah. We're definitely because with most things, I would like to think that we're more kind of, you know, like some of the younger doctors as they approach science and tech and stuff like that. But certainly with TikTok, you and I are like William Hartnell, aren't we? We're just the grumpy old dismissive. Give me a pen and paper any day attitude.
Absolutely that. Yeah, I still write my notes for the podcast on pen and paper. I've got it right here in front of me. You hear that? That's my pen hitting the pad.
Nice. Can't beat it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Old school.
Well, okay then, mate. So
that's me. What you been up to? Anything Doctor Who related?
No, I've not done a Dicky Bird Doctor Who this week. Oh. Yes, just I don't know. I finished watching through the box set Blu-ray that I got, I don't know, a few months ago now. You know, the redo of the series 1 to 4 and the specials and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So I finished watching through all that. That was great, rewatching all of RTD's era. That was fantastic, watching some of that and really got into it. So I finished that. I finished a book recently. So I'm kind of in that in-betweeny phase where I'm not really watching anything new or rewatching any Doctor Who as yet. And I haven't started any new comics or books for Doctor Who. So yeah, a bit quiet on the old Doctor Who front. Yeah.
A bit quiet.
Yes.
I still want to get that set, actually. The one you're talking about, the new remastered 1 to 4. Still got my eye on that. Not till I come back to the UK, though.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the second one to be released, inevitably, which is the Series 5 to whatever they're going to do. So, yeah, that would be a good one, I think. Complete the set. Because the OCD's, you know, ticking away. Every time I walk past the bookshelf, I can just hear this little, I'm alone. I haven't got my partner with me. I haven't got the Series 5 stuff and onwards. I'm like, don't worry, just chill. You know, the BBC have got lots more money to make yet.
Oh, yes.
So come on. Yes, Beeb. I'd like an advance copy of the upcoming Blu-ray set for review, please. Get lost.
Yeah, tell them you're going to put it on TikTok and they'll give you one straight away.
Yeah, all right then. The smug faces over there on bloody YouTube and TikTok. Anyway, shall we crack on and do these couple of bits of news? Well, let's land the TARDIS for a first time in ages. Yeah, do some news. First up, then, we've got this little, as I said earlier, these are just little nuggets of things, really. They're nothing too crazy. But the first one is Russell T. Davies over on his Instagram account has put this only landed earlier on today. We're recording this on Thursday, the 14th of March. It's about 7:30-ish p.m. here in the UK, about 2:30, I think, in the US. This only dropped 2 hours ago, so it's fresh. And it's a bit of a cryptic one. And it's a photo of him inside the new shooty TARDIS interior. He's taking a selfie. And the text that goes with that is incoming, capital letters, destination tomorrow, exclamation mark. Doctor Who on BBC iPlayer in the UK and Disney Plus where available. Stand by. 2 heart emojis, a plus emoji, and then a blue square emoji. So I think that's meant to be the TARDIS on its side, perhaps. I don't know. But dude, so we've got this little news nugget, and it's obviously set. Fandom's gone absolutely berserk over this. On Instagram, there's like 1 million comments. The first one's actually the official BBC Doctor Who account. It's just got a pair of eyes emoji, looking around sort of thing. And then there's people like Dan Slott. Those of you who know into your comic books, you know who Dan Slott is. And he's wrote a couple of Doctor Who comics recently, most famous known for his work on the Spider-Man run. He just put like a bunch of like shocked faces emojis. You've got James Moran. You've got loads of like, pretty big players in the world of Doctor Who. Plus, like I said, like 1 billion comments. Even BBC iPlayer on there with their eyeballs on it as well. So what do you think this might be? It's obviously something to do with content that's going to land on iPlayer here in the UK, or where you are, mate, and around the world on Disney Plus. Do you think it could be the resolution to the contract disputes and stuff, and we're going to get an unearthly child and all the other little bits that we're missing, or is this going to be something completely wild? What do you reckon?
Oh yeah, because he does mention iPlayer, doesn't he? I hadn't thought of Unearthly Child actually, mate. That didn't occur to me. No, I thought it's probably like a little teaser or a trailer coming. Somebody pointed out it's Red Nose Day, is it, tomorrow night in the UK? So could it be the return of a Red Nose Day Doctor Who sketch? I don't know, mate. It's intriguing. I mean, Russell loves taking selfies on that TARDIS set, doesn't he? He really does. And who can blame him? But yeah, I don't know, mate. I get the feeling. I was thinking teaser or trailer.
Okay.
But now you've mentioned the fact the iPlayers tagged in on that tweet. That seems, and Disney Plus as well. Yeah, I don't know. Could it be that? Could they be uploading Doctor Who to Disney Plus? Like the old stuff? Because we were talking about that, weren't we, the other week, saying that the old stuff is not on there. Hence why they're calling the new Shooty series Series 1. But could it be something to do with that? I don't know.
Possibly. I think it's either something that they've either filmed a new sketch for Comic Relief, or like you said, is tomorrow.
It's tomorrow,
here in the UK. So that lines up perfectly with the date. So it's likely, now you've mentioned that, it's likely going to be something to do with Comic Relief. My backup prediction is that anything that's missing from the back catalogue will be sorted out and will be on there. I'm not sure.
Well, that would be lovely, yeah.
Yeah, but who knows? It's a cool little, it's cool that we never got, I don't mean to throw shade again at the Chibinator. We've done enough of that. But I have to say, mate, it's so refreshing that we have a showrunner that does stuff like this, He puts himself out there all the time, tons of selfies on set and on location, and lots of posts, not giving anything away, but just staying within like the eyes of fandom, and just being present, if that makes sense, and doing all that stuff. So it's very cool. So regardless of what this ends up being tomorrow, I'm just loving the fact that we have a showrunner that's more active and just giving people stuff to look forward to, really. So yeah, we'll let you guys know. Actually, no, we won't let you know because you'll find out way before we record again. But we'll give you our thoughts and commentary on it when we come back to record week after next. So yeah, it could be an exciting little thing, that, dude.
It couldn't be the spin-offs finally getting announced, could it?
It could be. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, because he mentions specifically BBC iPlayer in the UK and Disney Plus where available. That makes me that because he wouldn't mention that normally, because teaser trailers and stuff like that, they just go out on YouTube, don't they?
Yeah.
So because he specifically says Doctor Who on BBC iPlayer in the UK and Disney Plus were available, stand by, that makes me think that there's something being added to the catalogue on there. I could be wrong. It could be, well, when I say added to the catalogue, it might not be an Unearthly Child or anything like that, but it could be a brand new sketch for Comic Relief. That would be cool.
I was going to say I'm kind of leaning towards the Comic Relief thing. Imagine if it was a lost story found. I mean, that would be. I mean, it's not going to be, is it? But I mean, that would be my. That would be amazing. The only other thing I can think of, mate, is the announcing the new companion who's been seen filming, because that's it. That to me is a bit strange. This whole Millie Gibson situation and the fact that we know the Doctor's already got a new companion, so maybe they're going to announce her. I don't know, but I think you could be right. I think it's more likely going to be something towards, like iPlayer and all that thing. So I'm going with Comic Relief.
Yeah, I'm going with Comic Relief. I hadn't considered it before you mentioned it, but because the date is, obviously perfect for the two things, it's probably that. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled to Russell T Davis's Instagram and Twitter and the official Doctor Who stuff tomorrow. The day that you're listening to this podcast. And it should be a cool little thing.
Isn't Tennant on Comic Relief as well? Isn't he hosting it or something?
Oh, I don't know. He hosted the BAFTAs recently.
Okay. I've just got a feeling he's on it. I'm just trying to quickly Google this before we move on, but I can't find it. But anyway, that's our guess. We'll see if we're right this time tomorrow, I guess.
Indeed.
There is only another little bit of news just floating around, mate. And it's we don't normally do rumour, but it's a very strong and almost confirmed rumour. I mean, the Radio Times have basically done an article on it, so I think we can run with this. That they are saying that due to, I think, one of the writers blabbing something on IMDb or something like this. Anyway, it's been put out there in the ether that Stephen Moffat is returning, which we kind of felt was going to happen anyway. But apparently he's coming back to write the Doctor Who Christmas special. So his name appeared on, I don't know if it was IMDb, but let's say that for argument's sake, appeared on the website briefly, added under the writer's or director's name or whatever. And then it was quickly removed. But of course, it's too late. People find this stuff. So what do you reckon, mate? So the bit of news, or rumoured news, very strong rumoured news, is that Stephen Moffat is coming back. And when he does come back, he's going to be writing the Christmas special. Now, I assume that means the next Christmas special. So the 2024 Christmas special, but who knows? But what do you reckon? Mothball, is he back?
I think this one, it does hold a bit of water just because.
Yeah.
So this is one of the producers on the show, Alison Sterling. She updated her CV. I don't know if this was on IMDb or just on her website or somewhere. She updated her CV, and it was with the agency that she works with, Independent. Independent Talent. That's who she gets her work through, I assume. And she updated it to say that she was the producer on this particular project, and it was with Bad Wolf, the BBC and Disney Plus. And the project details, it just says, because like you said, it's been removed a couple of things. They've removed a couple of things off there once this went viral. And now it just says Series 15 Christmas Special. Now, before that stuff was removed, she had noted on there that she had worked with the director, Alex Pillai. And it also said that the writer on the Christmas special is Stephen Moffat. Now, you wouldn't put that if it wasn't true, if that makes sense. You wouldn't just update your CV and just randomly put someone on there who didn't work on it, would you? It's kind of weird, because on this particular page for Alison Sterling, the way that the website is laid out, it's got the production role, so what she did on the project, and all of these she's listed as a producer. That's her job. It then lists in the next column the company, and then in the third column it says project details. And the way that all the other ones are listed, it gives you the writer, the director, and then it lets you know if there's any other details, like it's based on a novel by somebody or nominated for a BAFTA or something like that. And this Doctor Who one is the only one in the whole page that's just got one line of text that just says Series 15 Christmas Special. So I reckon this holds water, dude, because you can see what's happened to Miloff. She's worked with this person on the special, the director. She's worked with Stephen Moffat, who's obviously written the special or is about to write it. And she's updated her CV. It's gone into the public. Everyone's gone nuts. And then she's had her wrist slapped by the BBC and has been told to take it off the website, which happens all the time. You know, you often find this with not just Doctor Who, but loads of different franchises where particular actors or producers or writers jump the gun a little bit. They update their online website or their IMDb. It goes out a bit early. They get their wrist slapped, and then before you know it, it's always the same thing as well. A news article breaks like this on either a news outlet, like this is the Radio Times, or it's on someone's blog. It's always the same thing. It's like, yep, these details are out there. We've got a screenshot of it, but then the details have been swiftly taken down. So that to me says that the moth bag is back, dude. He's back.
I do believe. I want to believe because I do think
the X-Files podcast.
I do think ever since the rumours of the mothball coming back started, I thought, I can see that because, you know, him and Russell still good friends. Did you see that brilliant picture that Stephen posted on his Instagram a few days ago of himself, Chibnall and RTD in a bar at the table getting drunk? Did you see that picture? And he put, delighted to announce the latest season of Last of the Summer Wine. I just thought, I just love his humour, and I definitely can see him coming back. And I'm just waiting for the confirmation of this. And I'm excited as well because I think, Stephen burnt out a little bit. He's admitted that himself. You know, he kind of wanted to leave the show, sooner than he was allowed to, and he kind of was, just burnt out really in terms of his writing and stuff. So, although some of his stuff just didn't really work, I still think he is a fantastic creative mind, and I think he came up with some amazing stories while he was writing for Doctor Who under RTD, and also when he became producer. So I'm excited now that he's had a break and he's had some time just to simmer down and get a couple of glasses of wine down him, and he's chilled out and he hasn't got that pressure on his shoulders of being the showrunner anymore. I'm excited to see what he brings to the table because I am a fan of the mothball in terms of I think he's a good science fiction writer. I think he's came up with some great concepts of ideas during his time on Doctor Who. They may not have all come off successfully, but I'm much rather that than somebody who just regurgitates old ideas. And I'm not going to mention names, but I think the mothball's still got some good stuff in him. So I'm excited, mate. I hope it's true, and I do believe it's true. I think it's only a matter of time before they announce it. And I wouldn't, and maybe this is the announcement tomorrow. You never know. Perhaps the RTD's gonna announce the mothball. Who knows? Yeah,
who knows?
But I'll be glad to see him back. I will, even if it's just for a special.
Yeah, same. And the only one little nugget that might throw a spanner in the works is apparently Russell T Davies did say that he was writing this special. He himself was writing it when he was interviewed back in 2022. So back then, in one of the issues of Doctor Who magazine, he said, for the first time ever, I'm writing a Christmas special at Christmas. And this isn't for next year. No, the 2023 script has been long since signed off. This is for the new one at the end of year 2024.
Oh.
So Russell said that himself in an interview a couple of years ago. So that's the only thing that might be like, maybe this isn't that, because maybe he's just, I don't know, maybe it's like a dual credit on this one. Maybe they both contributed. Who knows? But
I was going to say that I have always wanted them to collaborate, actually, because I think I said this before, that I think they are great separately, but together I think they'd be brilliant, because they would sort of, I would like to think you'd get the best of both, so it would cancel out any sort of shortcomings that each of them has. Do you know what I mean? I think together they'd be a really great writing team. So I'd love to see a story written by both of them. And also, no offense to Stephen, despite what I've just said praising him, I've never really been a fan of Stephen's Christmas specials. I've always preferred his stories that were in the actual seasons themselves. So that's the only thing I was a little bit not sure about when I heard about he was coming back to write the Christmas special, because I thought, it's that they were never my favourite things that he produced. So I wouldn't be sad if he's not writing a Christmas special, but if they're writing it together, I think that would be cool.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be very cool. So we will again keep you updated week after next when we record, depending on if we get any more news on this one. I have a feeling that this one's just going to be buried for a while until we get deeper into the year or early next year,
possibly
when Russell or the BBC are happy themselves to announce the news of the Mothbag being back. So it is an interesting one, and it's one to look forward to nonetheless. So we'll let you know what's happening with that at some point. Alrighty, that's the news done. A couple of interesting little nuggets of stuff there that hopefully will come to something cool. We'll definitely find out one of them very soon tomorrow, and then we'll keep our eyes peeled for the other ones. So that's news done. Bud, on to our review. What have we got?
Yeah, so this week we're reviewing the Fourth Doctor story, Meglos.
Some 50 years ago, I knew a man who solved the insoluble by the strangest means. He sees the threads that join the universe together and mends them when they break.
Don't be afraid.
What are you?
Forgive me. I am Meglos.
Hello there, I'm Doctor Unexpected.
I didn't see you go, huh?
What?
This is the second time you've been in here.
I think you're a fraud and a liar.
I think what we've got here is a good old-fashioned doppelganger.
There's no power down there. Where's the doctor?
Sometimes I think you forget who I am.
He's betrayed us. Arrest the Time Lord. Stop him at all costs. I shall seek guidance from the power itself.
What you're asking us to do is impossible. That's the problem with doppelgangers, you see, you never know who's who.
Doppelgangers indeed. Okay. Well, one,
yeah.
in this particular story. Right, so Meglos. It was first broadcast on the 27th of September 1980. The year I was born.
Wow.
It's a 4-parter, and it finished up on the 18th of October of the same year. It was written by John Flanagan and Andrew McCulloch. It was directed by Terence Dudley, overseen by Christopher Bidmead. Stars Tom Baker, Lala Ward as Romana, John Leeson as the voice of K9, and Jacqueline Hill is back as not as Barbara, but as a different character, and about 6 or 7 other supporting cast members, and the synopsis is thus. On Tigella, 2 opposing factions are irrevocably divided over one fundamental issue, the dodecahedron, a mysterious artifact which provides the entire planet's energy. With the Savants and the Dions locked in a crippling stalemate, their civilization is on the brink of collapse, so the Tigellans' leader Zaster seeks the Fourth Doctor's help, but the Doctor and Romana have been trapped aboard the TARDIS in a time loop by Meglos, the last of the Zolfathurans, who will stop at nothing to steal back the awesome power of the dodecahedron.
That sounds very exciting.
It does, doesn't it? On paper, dude, sounds great.
Paper.
So, What are your thoughts out of the traps then on Meglos?
Oh dear. Yes, it does sound exciting on paper, but what happened between script and screen, I would love to know, because it just feels to me like this is such a wasted opportunity in lots of areas. So I think it's an enjoyable watch. Like it's perfectly watchable. I don't think it's bad. The pacing is fairly good. So I wasn't bored watching this one. In fact, if anything, I was quite entertained. But it just doesn't work. There are so many things that, like I said, that are a missed opportunity in it. I mean, it feels a bit like a first draft to me. Like stuff just happened. And maybe it was a rush production. I feel like there's something about the story that either a production issue, a scripting issue, or something that has just hindered it, because things just happen in the last episode. Like Lexa, played by Jacqueline Hill, just suddenly gets shot out of nowhere. And it's just like, well, hang on, what happened there? Move on. The wrap-up is one of the quickest wrap-up in any story. When it ended, I thought, what? Is that it? Tom seems... I'm going to go a little easy on Tom on this because I believe he wasn't very well around this time. I think it's well documented that during season 18, nobody ever seems to know what, but I don't think Tom was in the best of health. And it certainly feels like that to me. Tom just doesn't seem on form. He's given this great opportunity to play this evil cactus doctor, which sounds bonkers, and it is, but somehow it's quite creepy. And I don't think he grabs it, by the horns and goes for it. I really feel like Tom could have done more playing that cactus doctor, because for the time, I think the makeup's pretty decent. I think he looks creepy, but he starts doing it in this sort of evil way, but then he just does the big doctor grin at the end of every line, which sort of takes you out of it. And I don't know, I feel like Tom could have done so much more with that. I just don't feel he was into it, or maybe he wasn't feeling too great during the story. It's very interesting watching this after reviewing Destiny of the Daleks last week, because we talked about how great Tom and Lala were together. By this story, you can absolutely see that he's hardly looking at her. I mean, those early scenes in the TARDIS, he's staring at K9 for most of the time he's talking to Romana. He doesn't really acknowledge her. The chemistry is gone. So anyway, we'll dive into it, but my feelings are, mate, that it's one of those stories that once again has great potential, has some really nice elements, some nice ideas, some good characters that could have been well developed. I mean, I think General Gruger and Lieutenant Brodatak, or whatever they're called, they could have been a funny double act, like if Robert Holmes was writing this, he was great at creating double acts, and I think he would have really brought those characters to life. So there's great potential here, mate. It's just not reached, and when the story ends, it just literally ends. There's no sort of satisfying conclusion to it. Yeah, it just doesn't quite come together, and it's a shame. So it's a real middle of the road story, but I wouldn't say it isn't enjoyable. So for all its faults, it's still very watchable, I think, but it could have been so much more. I feel like every time I watch this, I'm like, God, the Cactus Doctor, and the bit where he's, the guy's trying to escape out of him and the doctor's pulling him back in. There was some great stuff in it that just really could have been great, but yeah, it just doesn't quite come together, sadly. For me, anyway. What do you reckon? Meglos, I am Meglos. That blooming cactus.
Yeah. There's a couple of positives with this one, mate. Mm-hmm. There are a couple of positives, but overall, this is a real poor one. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's a real poor one on many levels. It's not just one of those stories where it's a bit of a dodgy script, but the performances bring it up a bit so you can kind of just look past it and then try and enjoy it, or vice versa. It really is. It's a rubbish script. That's what does my head in the most. That's the biggest negative for me, mate, is the script is awful. And then you've got the supporting cast members who are, I don't know, like one of them's trying to really inject some stuff into it. So I think the scientist dude, Diedrichs, played by Crawford Logan, he's quite intense and he's quite up for it. You can tell that. And then you've got the sort of bumbling buffoonery of the Braztaks. Those guys are obviously intentionally very, just a bit dense. They're like the doll parade because of that. So they try and come off as like this very funny sort of, I don't know. It just doesn't work, basically, the way that they're written. It doesn't work. No. And then the dialogue between the Doctor and Romana. If you go back to when we reviewed Destiny of the Daleks, although we said that wasn't one of the strongest stories in terms of a Dalek story, the performances from Tom Baker and Lala Ward were fantastic in that. That was one of the things that we really liked about it. And, Tom was, pretty much there. It wasn't his best. Again, it wasn't their best thing that they've done, but they were firing on more cylinders than they were on this one. And
definitely.
Yeah, so you can tell that Lala Ward, she's kind of trying to inject something as well, but the script's just not there for her. And Tom, like you said, for two reasons, really. It's well noted that he was slowly recovering from some kind of illness that he was really bad with it, apparently, during the Leisure Hive. And it was this that was kind of dampening his mood a little bit, and he wasn't really... And he really hated having the latex facial stuff on with the cactus stuff.
Oh, I can imagine he did.
Yeah. So he was a bit of not in the best of spirits for this one. And plus, he kind of knew he was on his way out, right? Because we're in the final season for him now. And depending on where they film stuff in terms of blocks and whatnot, we're only 4 stories away from Logopolis. So, he kind of knew he was being replaced at this point. He must have known, and he was on his way out and everything. So you sort of mix all those things together and you've just got a pretty grumpy dude overall. Yeah. So he's really not, on top form. And I don't know at this point whether him and Lala Ward were had fallen out a little bit. The sort of whirlwind romance between those two didn't last very long. But I can't...
I know during the Leisure Hive, Lala says on the commentary, I think he wouldn't even look at her in the eye. But I don't know if these are recorded, this was recorded before or after Leisure Hive. But I think it's fair to say around this time, they probably weren't getting on that well, even though they end up getting married not long after this, which is crazy. So, I don't think they were on the best of terms at this point.
No. So, behind the scenes, just a lot of stuff going on that just equals. Sometimes you can get away with it, like if depending on your commitment to a role and so on. Because I've seen plenty of times in the past, different TV shows or films, where you watch it and you think, "Crikey, that was amazing," and then you read sort of the behind the scenes or whatever, and it's like, "Oh, this person hated that person," and you think, "Really?" Because on screen it was bloody brilliant, but behind the scenes they're out for each other's blood, sort of thing. Whereas with the case with these two, unfortunately, it just translates on the screen a little bit that they're just not vibing, So anyway, mate, overall, I just didn't really enjoy watching this one. It's weird because sometimes when we review stories that are not often in people's top 10s or people don't really like the story too much en masse, I never let that put me off, I never go into a story rewatching it thinking, my thoughts on it previously, they might have changed since I rewatched it. And also, I'm not going to be led by fandom's opinion. I'll go into it as fresh as possible. But I think with this one, I'm kind of, we'll get to some of the listeners' tweets and Facebook stuff at the end, obviously. But I'm kind of with listeners on this one, mate. I just didn't enjoy it. Like last week when we reviewed Destiny of the Daleks, again, that was one that's not really rated that highly overall by fandom. But we found some very cool things in there. And I actually enjoyed mostly, watching that one. Whereas this one, man, I can't say the same. It just, by the end of it, I was like, cool, I'm glad that is done. I am glad I'm done with that. It's a crappy thing to say about Doctor Who, but there's just the odd story where when it's finished, you're like, I'm glad that's done.
Yeah, I was like, I blinked and the music was playing. I thought, I couldn't believe that was the ending. It just seemed to just end. But this is one of those stories, mate, where I wish I had the DVD or the Blu-ray set so I could watch the extras, because I'd love to know more about the production of this. I mean, I've probably watched them before, but obviously not for a very long time. And being here in the US, I'm just watching them on the iPlayer, so I don't have access to any of the behind the scenes. But I would love to see a behind the scenes of this, if there is one, just to see what was going on. Because to me, I get the feeling that this was either a rushed or a troubled production. It just doesn't hang together very well in terms of the production itself. So yeah, but I when I get back to UK, I might have to watch the behind the scenes of this. I would love to see some of Tom being put into the cactus makeup, because I can just imagine him, what sort of mood he was in, having to wear all that stuff. But I don't even know if there is any behind the scenes stuff on it, mate, to be honest. Yeah,
I'm not sure. I think there is. I think there's a couple of bits on there when I watched this originally a few years ago.
Yeah,
now, but
I'm thinking there must be something. And the thing is, it's one of those stories that always hope when I watch it, it'll be better than I remember. Because, you know, that image of the Cactus Doctor is really striking, isn't it? And that's the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Meglos as a story. So it is one of those stories I always hope I'll put on and think, actually, this, like you said, this isn't very well regarded, but actually it's not that bad. But it actually does live up to its reputation a little bit, which is a shame because I can remember when I was really young, you know, the Madame Tussauds exhibition of the Fourth Doctor with K9 and the Meglos Doctor. I was absolutely fascinated by that. We went on a school trip to Madame Tussauds, and I can remember so clearly seeing those Waxworks figures, you know. So to have that Cactus Doctor as part of that, it is just a story that basically I want to love, but every time I watch it, I just realise it's not that great. Mm-hmm. It's such a shame.
It is a shame, isn't it? Because as we've said many times, sometimes when you look at the story as the synopsis or, you know, just the ingredients there on paper, you think actually that could be very cool. But then somewhere between that and the execution of actually, you know, producing a thing and ending up on screen, it just, for a number of reasons, I'm assuming it just falls short sometimes. But interestingly, the Matt Smith, the 2010 story, The Lodger, that was potentially going to be a sequel to Meglos.
Was it? Didn't know this.
Yeah, Gareth Roberts was like, I think we should do a sequel. We could probably improve on some of the things that, you know, from the original. But it was ultimately dropped because nobody likes it. So
maybe for the best.
Yeah, it would be pretty, you know, be quite funny for to try and sell a new Doctor Who story to fandom based on a story that's, you know, torn to shreds on a regular basis. So anyway, we could have had a sequel, mate, but it was dropped.
It wasn't to be. Imagine Matt Smith's Doctor with all the Cactus stuff. I reckon he could have done that quite well, actually.
Well, the other thing I know you can write whatever you want in sci-fi, but Meglos is the last of its kind. The Zolfathura, the last one. So we don't know what happened to it, though, do we? Because it sort of scuttered off, you know, it turned back into a cactus at the end of this one and scuppered off, didn't it? What happened to it? Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. The end, it's just such an abrupt ending. I can't even remember what actually happened. And I only watched it like 2 nights ago. Yeah.
So Meglos, you know, he takes on
into like a little green blob, doesn't it? It starts running around on the floor.
So before that, at the beginning of the story, he sort of steals the form or consumes the human that they had captured. You know, the accountant-looking dude.
Yeah.
And towards the end, you can see that internally that dude is sort of fighting back the visual sync or whatever. You know, the Meglos is able to tune itself to a certain frequency to sort of visually take on the form of something. And the human sort of fights back and fights back. You can tell because it does that a couple of times throughout the 4 parts. And Meglos sort of battles back and, you know, consumes the human fully again. But towards the end, the human breaks free of Meglos. So Meglos is back to its original cactus form. And I'm pretty sure it just drops to the floor and sort of shuffles out like an earthworm kind of motion. Yeah. And that's it. So Meglos is still knocking about, I believe.
Wow. One day we may get that sequel. Yeah, because that's right. I think he scuffles off, and then the guy who looks a bit like Clark Kent says something about being late for. I better get back because the wife. I don't know. There's some like corny line at the end, and then the music plays. It's like what the.
Oh yeah. So he says to the Doctor, "I need to be back for tea." You know, the wife's got dinner on, basically. But the trouble is that's going to be in 20 minutes. So his watch is still working perfectly, which is good. And the Doctor just says, you know, don't worry. I think what he's alluding to is, you know, I've got a time machine, so don't worry. I'll get you back before this even happened. So, and that's it, like you said. And then the music kicks in. So it's a bit of a...
It almost needs like a little music sting of... It's all it's missing, really, isn't it?
Oh, mate, yeah. Yeah, so very quickly then, story-wise, I mean, I couldn't care for the story, mate, if I'm honest with you.
No,
it's just
not really. No.
And the problem is with this dude, it's the same bloody thing. It's the same. it's the same problem that we encounter so many times, where you've got, again, potentially a good story. We had this with Destiny of the Daleks, where you've essentially got two factions who are at war, and it's down to the Doctor to sort that out, and one of the other factions is after something to give them the advantage in a stalemate. That's basically it. And the thing, the MacGuffin, if you like, in this story is the dodecahedron, this all-powerful item that Meglos wants to harness so he can destroy planets and take over the universe and all the rest of it. But on either side of that, you've got it's basically science versus religion in this, because you've got the scientists on what's the planet Tigella. You've got the scientists, and then you've got this sort of religious cult or sect that believes that the dodecahedron was brought down from a god and placed there. So you've got these two that are stalemate, and then these guys just sort of waft in, steal it, and they want to take over the universe. So that's the story, mate, essentially. But I just wasn't bothered by it, mate. And the reason for that, coming back to my original point, is that unless the performances are there and you can relate to the characters, or certainly, believe in what they're putting across, the story just doesn't do anything for you, really. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know, there wasn't enough. For me, there wasn't enough cast members to begin with. You've essentially got one person on either side. You've got Diedrichs. Is it Diedrichs?
He's the guy with the blonde wig or whatever.
Yeah. And then you've got Lexa, played by Jacqueline Hill, on the other side.
Yeah.
And those two really are the voices for each side of the story, I guess. And then you've got Zaster in the middle. He's the old guy who kind of sees what Diedrichs is saying in terms of we should go down the science route to sort of, fix the problems in our society. And then he also is loyal to Lexa, who kind of believes a little bit in what's going on over this side. But he just has had enough. So he calls the Doctor, basically, gets the bat phone out. Yo, we need some help over here because nothing's moving forward. What can you do? So that's the story, dude. Did you care for this much, or because I certainly didn't.
No, I didn't, mate. And that's the thing. There are so many plot holes in it. I mean, how does the cactus Meglos even? He gets a picture of the Doctor, and suddenly he's turned into the Doctor, clothes and all. I mean, I know we have to overlook stuff in Doctor Who. We have to kind of just go with it a lot of the time, but it wasn't sort of credible enough to be invested in the story. And like you said, when you say those things on paper about, the religious side and the people trying to do, live life by facts, and there's interesting stuff there that could have been utilized, but you just don't care enough about any of the characters, and most of the performances are a bit flat. I mean, yeah, it has to be said, Tom and Lala are very flat in this, and if anything, those are the two, like Destiny, that could have totally, I wouldn't have said saved this story, but they could have injected more life into it. I think particularly Tom, I feel like he could have really gone for it in this, but he doesn't. Lala, I think, is less guilty. I think she does at least try. I still feel like she's giving a fairly decent performance, but yeah, there's just no energy in it, and there's no characters to really care about. And it's criminal, really, that Jacqueline Hill finally returns to Doctor Who, and God, I absolutely love her as Barbara, and she comes back as this totally different character, Lexa. That to give Jacqueline Hill her credit, she's one of the only people in it really that I feel is giving a good performance. She's really trying. But that bit where she got shot, mate, what happened there? Was it just badly edited, or it was almost as if I just couldn't quite work out. There was no motivation, there was no build up to it. Just suddenly out of nowhere, someone decides to shoot it. Oh yeah, we'll kill that character off. What was that about?
Yeah, so that was when there was a bit of a standoff between the Dions and the other dudes that Lexa is part of. No, hold on, she's part of the Dions. Hold on, which way around is it?
She's part of the Dions.
The Dions, sorry, yeah. So the other guys, they, they're not happy with what's going on. So because the Dions have staged this revolution, they want to capture the Doctor and sort of take matters into their own hands, Whereas the science dudes are like, hold on a minute, this is not the Dion show. We're here as well, sort of thing. So there's a bit of a standoff, and ultimately one of the Dions who they fought, there's a bit of a scuffle, and then one of the science people who's thought was knocked out or killed, still got a pistol and ultimately kills Lexa. But the problem is that it's a bit of an anticlimax to that character's sort of run in this story. I know a lot of people will kind of go along the lines of, yeah, but that's Barbara. That's Jacqueline Hill. This is like Doctor Who royalty in a way. And so for that that sort of compounds the issue. Not only is that character just leaves us
wasted,
fairly quickly and abruptly. But it's Jacqueline Hill.
Yeah.
So
it just seems such a waste to bring her back just for this character. It's just I don't know. Feels just like a waste.
It is a bit of a waste, yeah. And she does actually say she was interviewed like years after the story, and she said that she regrets heavily coming back to play this character.
Really, that's interesting.
In the story, yeah, she said she regretted appearing in the story, feeling that since she played Barbara, it was inappropriate to appear as a different character. And she admitted that the show had changed considerably since her time and was now recognisable in name only. Oh. So she really wasn't. By the time they'd finished filming, she had basically said, "Nah, this has gone downhill massively."
Oh, what a shame!
Yeah. So again, mate, it's one of those sort of behind the scenes things that, because you say that she's one of the only people sort of giving it a little bit. I did feel that from her, but only in like a couple of moments, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
There was a couple of moments where she sort of she reaches her arms up to the sky and she shouts out, to the god and stuff like that. And she commands the room a little bit, just like she did as Barbara in a couple of scenes. But the rest of the time, yeah, I don't know, mate. There was a couple of cool things from her in this, but I get the feeling anyway that you could tell that after she started filming it, she realised very quickly, like, I think this is a bit of a mistake to come back and do this. So,
yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point, mate. Because to be fair, as someone who absolutely loves the character of Barbara, I had forgotten completely that Jacqueline Hill was even in this. So I think that says something. Do you know what I mean? The fact that I put it on and was like, oh yeah, forgot Jacqueline Hill's in it. I think that says something, because you'd think, as someone who loves her would remember that she's in this story. I mean, it hasn't been that long since I watched it. So what I'm saying is there's no real standout moment or anything where you think, oh yeah, Jacqueline Hill's in this and there's that bit where she does that or she does this. There's no standout moment from her. So I think it's a fair point you make there.
Yeah. And so it wasn't one of the scientists, that shot her. It was one of the Gaztacs, actually. When they, when after that scuffle, it's one of the Gaztac dudes that's on the ground, seemingly dead. And he actually goes to shoot at Romana, which is interesting.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because Meglos is really miffed with basically, the Doctor and Romana, they've put in a spanner in the works in his plan. And because the Gaztacs are not, the most intelligent of, they're just following orders. And it's Lexa that moves in front of Romana and takes the hit so that Romana can live. And it's a nice little scene. Like Lala Ward, she seems really upset, teary-eyed and everything. So yeah, it's and then the Doctor's basically like, look, he basically says to her, this is sad and all, but we need to get going so we can save more lives. And then they're off. So yeah, it's for Jacqueline Hill to sort of come back and not have a great story to come back and finish up on. I mean, it begs the question, why she came back anyway.
Yeah, I did wonder that.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems very weird. I mean, you can understand it when you have an extra that comes back. If you've just been an extra on the show and you've maybe had one or two lines and that's it, and you've come back, then that's fair enough. But when you've played such an iconic character like Barbara, because I know we've had actors that have come back I guess the closest to it is probably Peter Capaldi from The Fires of Pompeii. He had a very big part in that story and then comes back as the Doctor. So not quite as big and an iconic role as something like Barbara, but, you know, and then you've got other people that have in it sort of here and there that have come back. But you would have thought that somebody would have said to her, or an agent or somebody has said, look, are you sure about this? Because, you know, people are going to recognize you, of course, and obviously know your name on the credits and everything. But you were such an iconic character. You were such a great, big, you know, fundamental in a way to the show's success that we have it now. So are you sure? Are you doubly sure about this? Put the whiskey down a second, put the gin down. Are you sure you want to go back on Doctor Who as a different character, which is basically a throwaway character? You've gone from you've gone from this iconic, and I keep saying that word because she is, both her and Harry, Susan, you know, these are the people that made the show, the foundation for it. So are you sure that you want to just ignore that to a degree and just be this throwaway character in an isolated story? And that's the thing with Meglos. It's one of the few stories from this era of Doctor Who in the 80s and the late 70s and stuff that is completely isolated. It's not related to any other story. It's not got an arc that follows on to anything else. It's just it's a one-shot thing. Yeah. So for her to come back and it's bizarre to me, dude, that she wanted to do it. Maybe it was the paycheck. I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know what the motivation was. Maybe she was just curious, you know, wanting that thing of thinking, I used to love working on Doctor Who and I've had all these years away. And maybe she just wanted to dip her toe in again to relive that magic. And of course, as you know, lightning doesn't strike twice, and maybe she found that help. But it is, yes, it does make you wonder what the motivation was for her to go back for such a small role. Yeah.
I know what you mean, though. Maybe she wanted to work with somebody in particular. Maybe she really wanted to work with Tom Baker as the Doctor, you know?
Yeah.
Because we've had that.
Just arrives there on set and Tom and Lala are like throwing scripts at each other and she's like, what have I walked into?
Yeah. Because we do have that with certain actors who are... We had it with David Tennant when he was umming and ahhing about leaving Doctor Who in the first time round. And one of the things that almost got him to stay was working with Stephen Moffat. He was such a fan of Stephen Moffat's writing and really wanted to work with him. He was like, I don't know, this is tough because I really want to work and be the Doctor that Stephen Moffat's writing for.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you know, there were bigger things that swayed him in the other direction. So you do have that. You have that sense, I guess, that, you know, maybe she just wanted to work with Doctor Who in the 80s, you know, at this point with a different, you know, a different team and a particular actor. Maybe it was Lala Ward. She was a big fan of her, or Tom, whatever. But but you know, it's plain to see that very quickly after doing it, she's like, bad decision. So
he probably had a lunch with JNT and he probably convinced her, I'll come back, you know.
Oh yeah. JNT, he would have definitely talked her around if she was unsure.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, it was probably a JNT lunch, lured her in.
Yep, a couple of gins, couple of G&Ts, curry around the corner from the BBC.
That's it.
Couple of drinks. Come on, Jack. I know you want to come back. I've got it right here.
Tom and Lala are a delight to work with. Come on. And if you hang around, Matthew Waterhouse will be joining us soon. You know, it's one big happy family. Come on.
Yeah, blimey. And maybe, dude, we're laughing about it, but you never know. Because if she was out the loop, you know, if she wasn't talking to anybody who was involved in making the show for, you know, a couple of decades, and then she was unaware of how things were working on the inside and stuff. All it took was, you know, JNT to sort of butter up a little bit. And she's in. Yeah.
I reckon I can see it. Yeah, I reckon that's what happened.
Yeah. So, okay, what did you think before we talk about a few? Let's finish off with a few characters in a second. But beforehand, what did you think to this versus Destiny of the Daleks that we reviewed recently? Because I don't think they are a million miles apart, are they? No, it was the season before that we had Destiny of the Daleks. That was directed by Ken Grieve. This one directed by Terence Dudley. What did you think to the production on this? And I know you're going to mention the massive use of CSO and stuff, which I've got on my notes as well. But did you think this one was a cool, even though the story wasn't quite there, did you think this was a good looking and well paced and well edited and well directed story?
I wouldn't say it's I wouldn't say it's well edited or well directed, to be honest. I thought it was very clunky, especially, like I said, I mean, I'll use that scene again as an example where Lexa gets shot, just comes out of nowhere to the point where I had to rewind it because I didn't know what happened. But no, I don't think it was particularly well directed or anything. But production wise, I think for 80s Who, I wouldn't say it's as good as Destiny, not by a long shot, because you had all the location stuff. You had that full-size spaceship built into the ground in Destiny. It felt like a much bigger production. This is all studio bound, isn't it? Is there any location in this?
I think it's all studio bound. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I will say, though, I mean, I don't think it looked bad. It's not. It's. I would say it's pretty standard for Doctor Who at this time. It doesn't look bad as a production. The use of CGI isn't over the top, like, say, for example, Underworld. So it's not bad like that. And I thought the model shots were fairly decent, again, for this era of Doctor Who. They didn't look too shoddy, like the spaceships, apart from maybe a little bit wobbly, but the spaceship models looked fairly good in design. They didn't look like sort of washing up liquid bottle or anything like that. They looked like they were fairly decent model shots, I thought. So yeah, I didn't think the production was bad on this one, but if you compare it to Destiny, yeah, they're worlds apart.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, I agree, mate. Yeah, I think it's not terrible, but it does suffer a little bit with being a bit static, I found. Very
static, yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned it a few times with Classic Who, where sometimes you'll get a director who will try something new. They'll try different camera angles, they'll try different things that you wouldn't normally see in an old TV show like that from that period. But with this one, not really. To be honest with you, it was just fairly static. I mean, it's not unheard of. There's loads of stories that have this feel to it, where it's just a camera positioned at the end of a corridor. Director yells action. They walk from one end of the corridor to the other. Director yells cut, and on we go. It's and sort of rinse and repeat. Just with different rooms and stuff. So yeah, and the CSO stuff, it did look a little bit weird, I suppose, on some of it, especially when they're out on the surface of what's the planet called? I keep forgetting the name of the planet. Tigella. When they're out on the surface of that, it looks a bit ropey. And then when they get to, the planet where they've got the screens of Zolfa Thura, where they put the dodecahedron in the middle and activate it and so on. When they're on that, but it looks a little bit, yeah. But then again, it would have been, I don't know, it wouldn't have been that difficult to do that on location. Really, it was just it looked like a sandy kind of. That could have been a nice quarry somewhere.
Yeah.
Or something.
I mean, actually, I think I said CGI, but of course I mean CSO. But the CSO wasn't bad for Doctor Who at the time, I didn't think, because sometimes the CSO is awful in Doctor Who. But, the bits where they were like coming out of the spaceship models and like you said, and around the sandy bits, I do remember thinking, oh, actually, that's not bad for the time, because often around this sort of era, especially wearing hats and things, the CSO would often chop off the top of the hat as they walked out of a spaceship or something like that. And I do remember thinking it wasn't too bad. The way they'd lined it up to make it look like they were actually walking out of the spaceships and stuff. It wasn't awful.
It wasn't, yeah. I think for me, it was more the scenes on Zolfa Thura. So when you have Tom walking out of the ship and then he's off in the distance and stuff, like you could just, because of the limitations of the technology back then, you can't get away from the big kind of jaggedy, blurry edges around everyone and stuff like that. So, I don't know, the stuff that they used CSO on, it wasn't like these big, elaborate, amazing looking alien planets that would have been impossible to do on location. These were just, fairly basic, plain looking locations. They could have easily, nipped over to whatever beach was was the closest one and filmed some stuff there. I don't know, but production-wise, dude, fairly sort of run-of-the-mill, mediocre, I'd say.
Yeah, it certainly didn't help to bring the story alive. I know what you mean.
Yeah. Let's talk about some other characters in the story then. So what about the people who are on the opening scenes basically on Tigella, where you've got Zasta having a conversation with Diedrix, and then we get introduced to Alexa. So those guys on that bit. So what about Zasta then, played by Edward Underdown? What a cool name. He's the guy that basically calls the Doctor because he knows that, society is not going to last very long with this stalemate, so he needs outside help. So he calls the Doctor, and he tries to appease to both sides throughout the story, and he's very, he's a fairly mature guy, he's got experience and wisdom under his belt, and he tries to, sort of appease both parties and be a bit diplomatic. So out of all of them, I didn't mind his performance too much. He was a bit sort of quiet here and there, and not that animated and stuff. But maybe that was designed, but to be played that way. But not too bad.
No, I thought he was fine actually. Yeah, I know what you mean about being a bit quiet in places, but I think he suited that part. He's a bit. We mentioned it in Destiny of Daleks. He's got a sort of a face that lends itself well to these sort of characters, if you know what I mean. He looked like he suited the character he'd been given. I thought he was all right, actually. And just looking at his Wikipedia, he'd done quite a bit of work as well.
Yeah, he's got a familiar face. He looks like he's been in loads of kind of, classic black and white films, like loads of them.
I don't know if it's just me, but he reminded me a bit of John LeMessurier. LeMessurier, is that what he says there? From Dad's Army. I don't know. Now I'm looking at him, maybe he doesn't, but I kept thinking something about him reminds me of him. But he's got a good CV behind him, loads of filmography and lots of theatre work. 'Cause he is quite theatrical in this, I suppose you could say.
Mm-hmm.
He was fine, mate. He was good.
Yeah, not too bad. And I was in Dad's Army though, dude.
Was he?
Just for an episode, yeah.
Okay.
Major General Sir Charles Holland, apparently.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so he's done loads of stuff, yeah.
Anyway. He's done a lot, yeah.
Yeah, not too bad. What about Crawford Logan then, who plays the top scientist dude, Diedrix? For me, although he was chewing the wood a little bit, for me, I thought this guy was really good. Mm-hmm. I really liked his performance because he was one of those supporting cast actors that just went for it quite a lot. You could tell that he bought into the fact that his character was really passionate about what he was doing in the story. And so he played up to that, and he was, he shouts a few times and he wants to get his point across. And yeah, so I didn't mind this guy's performance at all, really. I thought the character was, he was a bit OTT at times, but overall, pretty good dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish he'd got more to do, because I actually wrote on my bad, Dietrich's going for it. And the reason I wrote that is because of exactly what you just said. I felt like out of all the actors that were kind of phoning it in a bit, he struck me that he was delighted to be in Doctor Who and thought, right, I'm really going to make my mark. I'm really going to go for it. So, I felt like he was one of the few cast members that was really trying to inject some energy into this and felt like he was, glad to be a part of this production. You could just see it in his performance that he wanted to be good in it. So I kind of wish he got more to do, because he was good. Yeah,
he was. Yeah, he was good. We've spoken about Jacqueline Hill quite a lot. Yeah, obviously not a patch on Barbara in terms of her kind of just natural performance. I think when she played Barbara, and we've spoken about this, loads when we reviewed the other stories, but yeah, I think Barbara was just such a natural sweet spot for her. It just seemed it was just brilliant casting for me. Jacqueline Hill as Barbara, it was just really cool. With this one, you can tell that she's obviously trying to mix it up a bit. You can tell that she doesn't want to come across as anything like Barbara. She wants to be this completely other character, which is obviously obvious thing when you get hired as an actor. You play a character, and if it's a different character, then it has to be different. But yeah, just not a patch on Barbara, man. And yeah, just a real, one of those things where your parents are not, when you've done something and you regret doing it immediately, and then your parents, they find out and they go really quiet on you, and you think, right, I'm really in for it, because they're not shouting at me and going nuts. They're just quiet. And then at some point they give you that talk where it's like, we're not angry at you for what you've done. We're just really disappointed.
Yeah.
Which sort of cuts through a bit deeper than if they had have shouted at you. That's how I feel about Jacqueline Hill in this episode. I'm like, I'm not miffed that you came back and played a different character and it wasn't Barbara. I'm not miffed at all. You do you, as back then as an actor, if you wanted to come back and be in Doctor Who, you do that, it's all good. But the end result is just that kind of shake of the head like, oh no, Jacqueline.
I feel like she probably beat herself up about it as much as anyone else.
Yeah.
Like, from what you said, it sounds like she regretted it. I mean, let's put it this way. She's not bad in it. And I think if we didn't know her as Barbara, we'd probably say, yeah, she was okay. It's just the fact that we do associate her so closely with the character of Barbara that it's disappointing when she does come back that she's playing this rather mundane, boring character. I think I can sort of, because they've made it look quite different. I don't sit there when I'm watching this thinking she looks like Barbara. That's Barbara. I can distinguish that it's a totally different character, which I mean in a good way. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, she probably regrets it as much as we do having her come back, really, because we wanted, if we have Jacqueline Hill back, we want her to be memorable and good. And as I said earlier, the fact I forgot she was even in this is shocking, really.
Yeah, I agree, dude. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you wouldn't forget, if Susan was in another episode years later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or if, Harry, whatever. So I'm not saying that it applies to the character, but, just the actor more than anything, you would remember. So the fact that nobody remembers really that she's in this one, unless you sort of prompt their memory. If you start talking about Meglos, they're like, oh yeah, I remember now, Jacqueline Hill was in it, wasn't she? So yeah.
And it's no slight on her as well. I mean, it's no slight on Jacqueline Hill. It's really down to the character and what she's given to work with. And clearly, like you said, she kind of she was dissatisfied with it as well. So
yeah,
it's no slight on her as an actor.
Oh, definitely not. No. So we're not saying this is like, in terms of Jacqueline Hill's ability as an actor or anything like that at all. No way. It's just disappointing because of the bad script she was given. And it is a bad script, so I'm going to say that.
And it is a bad script as well, because, I mean, Doctor Who's not exactly known as being Shakespeare, mate, but even I noticed some of the lines in this, I was like, oh, God, that's clunky, that is bad. It is not a good script.
No. Nope. Okay, then, what about our buffoonery double act of the... the Graztax.
Forgot about these guys.
Yeah, so you got the the Gaztax, who are these kind of like, what's the best way to describe these dudes? They're like interplanetary sort of pirate mercenaries, I guess. And they just get hired for, for work wherever. So in this particular story, it's Meglos that hires them as the, as the lackeys, I suppose. And then two of them, so you've got Lieutenant Brotadak, played by Frederick Trevers, and then you've got General Grugger, played by Bill Fraser. So those two, they're kind of... they're almost like something out of a Scooby-Doo cartoon. They're like the kind of bumbling, stupid... I was going to say that's probably one of the only parts of the script that was quite funny and sort of uplifting, I suppose, where you've got, when Tom is playing Meglos, he's always beating up on them, especially with Bill Fraser, who plays General Grugger, who tries to get one up on him, doesn't he, all the time? He's like, oh, go and capture him, we don't need him, go and take care of him. I know what to do. I know, how to work the controls and everything. He clearly doesn't, it's all a complete farce with them. So they do bring a little bit of sort of comic relief, I guess, to the story, but it just didn't land really. You could tell what they were trying to do with these two, but I feel like they needed to be a lot more. The humor needed to land a lot more in order for these
Yeah.
two to work, if that makes sense. So, yeah, didn't really land with me, dude. Didn't really buy into these lot, but what did you think?
Yeah, I'm the same. I think these two had great potential to be a fun double act, and they definitely would have injected more into the story given better material. Like I see potential there. There are moments where they bring a little smile to my face where I think you've got characters here that are not quite fully formed. So they're almost there, aren't they? That, like you said, they're almost a good double act, but they're just not fully formed. You can see, what they could have been. I mean, there are little moments like I like the bit where Brotadak, or whatever you could say it. I like the bit where he's after the Doctor's coat. I like his coat and all that. Those sort of moments made me smile. And then when he thinks he's figured out there's two of them, and the Doctor says, "Oh, it's all right. I've got you a coat as well." Nice moments like that. If there'd have been more of it, if they'd have really sort of ramped the characters up, their performance up a bit, they could have been good. And they definitely would have made the story more enjoyable to watch with a bit more humour. But they just don't quite land. You're right. They're just not quite there, really. But they do add a couple of nice little moments. I mean, the bit in the forest where they're going round and round gets really repetitive. When Romana's, oh God, talk about padding. And we haven't even mentioned what's it called? The chronic hysteresis time loop. No, what's it called? Chronic hysteresis. Hysteresis, isn't it? Hysteresis. Whatever it is, that time loop that goes on. Oh, mate. That must have done your nut in as well. Like when they keep going around in the loop, I'm like, come on.
I found it very cool the first couple of times, yeah.
Yeah.
But then after
like
that...
you think, oh, it's an interesting idea. Oh, yeah. And then it just goes on and on.
Yeah. No, I read you. And that bit in the forest as well was ridiculous after they'd gone round and round and round a million
and then
times.
She kicks the plant. Why didn't she just do that in the first place?
Yeah.
So much padding in those, second and third episodes. So much padding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but they could have helped. They could have helped if they'd have had a bit more in the script to do those two, I reckon. But they didn't.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. And it's also weird as to why these guys kind of, because you'd think that after a little while they'd give up. Like Meglos is treating them like beep. And then on top of that, he's expecting them to sort of wade into the middle of, so you've got the savants, the science dudes and the Dions, who are at odds with each other. It's weird that you would put like a bunch of mercenaries in there to take care of that when there's no real sort of military conflict going on. So they try and wade into like this more political standoff, but because they come across and they're written to be these kind of low IQ, sort of stupid, sort of soldiers. Basically, it doesn't really make sense for Meglos to hire them to sort of go and do these. I don't know. It seems like a weird.
There's
thing.
a lot of plot holes, mate. Honestly, that's what I mean. You could pick this to pieces if it's like a ball of twine, mate. If you started to unravel it, it would just fall apart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, yeah. Okie dokie. So those guys, not too bad in themselves. Actually, but just what they were given with, the script they were given. Okay, we've spoken about Tom Baker and Lala Ward a little bit. Before we just finish off with those two, John Leeson doesn't really get much to do, mate, with the old K9 in this one, does he? I think he says just 2 lines, maybe 3 lines.
My batteries have run out again, mistress. Yes, it's not a good one for K9.
He's a bit moany, isn't he? He's not got much to do, and on top of that, power cells depleting.
Very quickly this time as well. I think he'd only just left the blimmin' TARDIS. I mean, come on.
Yeah, he zaps somebody.
Get some Duracells in him.
Yeah, and the battery goes. Oh.
Yeah, not a good one for K9, I'm afraid.
No. So Lala Ward then, as Romana, I think a real contrast to the stories that she's in the previous bunch leading up to this one, where she's not really in it that much, to be honest with you. And when she is in it, her lines are really minimal. The thing that I like about some of the stories that she's in prior to this one is that she has a decent conversation with people. There's more substance there that her character gets to work with. Whereas in this one, it's like the scene that she's in she'll come through a doorway and say something like, "Oh, good heavens," you know, and then that will be it. And then somebody else will start talking, and then she'll just wander around, follow somebody, and then they'll be on to the next part of the story. So it's just not a lot, dude. I can't understate, sorry, how poor the script is for this. Because like some of the other people, like Jacqueline Hill and Edward Underdown, who plays Zasta, they just didn't really get much to do. Like the script is just, you know, they're in it, of course, but in terms of substance, just not there, mate. Not there.
I was going to say, there's nothing wrong with Lala's performance in this. I think she's still giving some energy. She just, again, it's down to the script, mate. She doesn't get much to do. And to be honest, you can't blame her for looking a little bit bored in certain scenes, which she does. I mean, even in the TARDIS, I can feel she's trying to just, you know, put some oomph in there, but there's not much for her to work with. So again, it's down to the script, not Lala. She's fine in it.
Yeah, agreed.
With what she's given.
Yeah, and then Tom, we've already mentioned Tom. Really, just not kind of there. He's still slowly sort of getting over this. I had a quick Google to see what the deal was with his illness. Apparently, it was a really bad flight he had back from Australia, which whatever happened on that flight made him really unwell when he got back home. And again, whatever it was it just really affected him for weeks and weeks afterwards. So, like we said, at this point, he's still sort of recovering after that illness. And it's the downturn in the relationship with Lala Ward as well. And everything we said earlier just doesn't really equal a great performance from Tom. So I think we can both agree on this one, man. Definitely not his best work.
No, not his best, mate. I guess we got to throw him a bone because of all the stuff he's going through then at this point. But yeah, it's not one of his best performances by a long shot. And I do feel it's a shame because I feel like there was stuff for Tom, unlike a lot of the other characters in the story. I feel like the Doctor at least had some stuff to work with. There was a bit of meat on the bones, you know, evil cactus doctor and two doctors in one scene. And I think there was potential for Tom to inject a bit of life into this story, which sadly he doesn't. But as I said, with everything else going on in his personal life behind the scenes, I'm not going to give him too hard a time on it. And again, the script doesn't exactly help him. So even though he has got those things that he could have utilised, it's still not a great script for him to... I can only imagine what he thought as he was reading it, to be honest with you. I can't really blame him for perhaps not, you know, being 100% have his heart in it. But yeah, I just would have, I don't know, there are scenes, mate, where I really want Tom to go for it because we know he's got it in him. Like, you know, when he storms in as Meglos disguised as the Doctor and then he's fighting with the other guy that's trying to escape him. Oh, I just would have loved to have seen Tom be a bit more into it because every time he starts to be evil Meglos, for me, he just ruins it by doing a big Doctor grin, for example, which you think, oh, well, it's just Tom playing the Doctor again. You know, I wanted Tom to show me that he can play another part, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't know if he's become the Doctor too much himself by this point, but I don't know. I just didn't feel, well, let's just say it's just not the best performance from Tom. I know he's got more in him, but I guess with all the other factors, it just wasn't gonna come out in this story, I guess.
Yeah. And like you said, we can sort of ease up on him a bit because of everything he had going on in his life, you know, at the time. So can't really be too hard on him. So it's just you have to chalk this one up to circumstance, I guess. Not being his strongest. Mate, yeah. And then lastly, very quickly, any thoughts on the music? This was a tag team on this one. So we had Paddy Kingsland, who did the music for the first episode, and then Peter Howell stepped in to do episodes 2 to 4. So, any thoughts on this music? I can't really remember it too well, to be fair. But
I quite like the music in this. There's a lot of sort of robotized voice. Whoa,
the vocoder,
the vocoder. That's it. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. I quite liked the music. It's very electronic and 80s. I didn't realise that two different people had worked on this story. Is there a reason for that? It's quite unusual, isn't it, to have a composer do one episode and somebody else do the rest? Did Paddy Kingsland have to drop out or something? Or
I'm not sure, mate. There's no. When I researched this earlier, I couldn't find any specific reason for it. Maybe it was just a. Well, it's either a schedule conflict, and Paddy had to drop out, and it was left unfinished, so someone else stepped in, or John Nathan Turner or the director or somebody had heard some of the music and thought, no good. So we'll bring someone else in. One of the two is my guess, but yeah, I couldn't find anything specific.
Yeah, it's curious, isn't it? There was a story we reviewed recently where the composer, was it Revenge of the Cybermen? Where I think Dudley had done it and J&T was like, no, it wouldn't have been J&T, would it? Must have been Hinchcliffe said, no, we need some more. They added like electronic music over the top of Dudley's music and stuff. So I don't know what happened there, mate. I didn't realise that until I saw Wikipedia today. It was two different composers. But I did like the music in it. I thought it gave it a bit of an atmosphere, that sort of vocoder, gothic sound, almost Gregorian chant type stuff going on. I quite liked it. It was that 80s electronic without being too cheesy 80s electronic, if you know what I mean. I quite like the music in this one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, from what I remember, it wasn't bad. I just don't remember. It's not one of those stories where once I've finished watching it, I can sort of recall the themes and so on. But I remember watching it thinking, I certainly didn't write on my notes that the music was bad, so or it wasn't enjoyable. So yeah, it's not too bad. We'll say a thumbs up for the music then, dude.
Yeah, give a thumbs up.
Alrighty. Before we get to scores, anything on your notes, bud, that we haven't covered? Anything you want to mention?
No, the only other thing I'd got written on my notes was that the episode, considering, like we were talking about the script not being great, the episodes are incredibly short. Not only are the recaps really long to pad out the episodes, I think episode 4 I wrote down was 19 minutes, which is normally in Doctor Who episodes at least around sort of 23 to 25 minutes. So it just goes to show, mate, that, I mean, we didn't mention it, well, you mentioned him, but Christopher H. Bidmead, the script editor, I feel like this script needed some work on it. And I don't know if it was a production issue, whether they just didn't have time to get the script up to scratch or what. But not only is it not a great script, but it was obviously massively underrunning for the episodes to be that short, considering that 90 minutes as about, 3 or 4 minutes of the... what do you call it? Of the previous episode, the cliffhanger, whatever.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for? Where they re-show, you know what I mean? The recap.
The recap, yeah.
So 90 minutes with about 3 minutes of recap. So 16 minutes of new material. Take out the credits. That's massively underrunning for a Doctor Who story. So, yeah, I feel like this story just didn't come together in a lot of aspects. And I don't know whether Christopher H. Bidmead's responsible a little bit for that, whether he should have got this a bit more up to scratch. I don't know.
No, I agree with you, dude. I agree. It definitely needed a lot of work.
Somebody needed to put some more work. I mean, I don't know. I'm not blaming Christopher H. Bidmead, by the way, because I don't know everybody's specific role when it comes to scripts and timings and things, but something didn't go right with this script, that's for sure.
Yeah. No, agreed. Yep. Alrighty then. Let's get some scores on this one. It's you to go first, bud.
Right, I'm going to go with a 5.5.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and I've got a feeling you're going to be a lot lower, but that to me is a fairly average score. Do you know what I mean? I didn't dislike it. I didn't find myself really bored, but I didn't think it was great. And it's not one I'll go back to very often, but 5.5.
Oh, quite middle of the road then. Yeah, so I am lower than you, and I'm going to give this a 4.
A 4?
Out of 10. Yeah. I just didn't... some stories where there's obvious problems with it, but there are things that you like and there are things that kind of bring the score up, maybe a performance here or there or something. With this one, dude, I just couldn't find anything. Really couldn't find anything that really bumped the score up past a 4 for me. It's just really... I don't know. I finished watching it and I thought that was just really bad. Not really bad, but a poor classic Doctor Who story and a poor Tom Baker story, that one. And as much as I went through and my notes again afterwards and tried to rack my brains a bit and think, what was good about it? There are a few good bits in it, of course, but just a 4 for me, dude. I can't go any higher than that. I just didn't enjoy it at all. Disappointing.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Disappointing, I would say. Rightio. What did our awesome listeners think? We only had a few in on this one compared to the review we did for Destiny of the Daleks. So over on the Twitter, one of our writers, Jordan, said, not the best. Not even the return of Jacqueline Hill could save this one. Really only worth it for the spiky design on Tom Baker, which does look pretty good, but you can really hear the nails being hammered into the Fourth Doctor era here. That's a good way of putting it, Jordan. Yeah. Thank you very much. Doctor Who Holmes says, a bit rubbish, but at least it's directed well. Tom is good as Meglos. The lads from Tigella are bland, but the pirate guys are fun. Weakest link of season 18, 5 out of 10.
5, okay.
Yeah. Tom, Titan Sci-Fi, says the one with the cactus. Fourth Doctor being a bit spiky. Romana outwitting the pirates in the forest. Amazing to see Jacqueline Hill again. A 7 out of 10.
7. Okay.
Tom quite likes that one. Fair play. Chippy T says confusing but fun. 2 doctors, 2 Meglos, 2 groups of natives, and 2 minutes to escape. One day I shall come back and a countdown will reach 0. Until then, you must swap faces with a cactus and return somebody home before they have left. Good old Doctor Who, a 6 from me.
Okay.
Nick H says, a real mixed bag, some good makeup and effects, but it's still a talking cactus, guys. What WTF? Some of the acting is good, some of it's dodgy. Jacqueline Hill deserved better. 4 out of 10.
Yeah, yes.
And lastly on Twitter, considering Meglos has some... this is Mester the Magnificent. It's a cool name. So considering Meglos has some very memorable imagery, some inventive direction and a spiffing soundtrack, it's a bland non-entity of a story. The whole religion versus science debate fizzles out after part 2, and tedious but not terrible, a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
So I don't know, what's the average score from there? I guess probably 5, I guess, over on the tweet, over on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Okay, what did our peeps over on the Facebook reckon to this one then? So, Darren Sykes, am I saying that right? I think so. Darren Sykes says, sorry to say, my least favourite story of season 18. Though it gave Tom Baker a chance to play a villain with great makeup for its time, the plot is far from engaging. The scenes in the TARDIS when the Doctor, Roman and K9 are caught in the chronic hysteresis come across as padding and an already weak script. Though nice to see Jacqueline Hill back, it does seem a little like the stunt casting JNT was renowned for. Yes. Overall disappointing. Better to come in this series, though. 3 out of 10.
3.
Charlie Turner. In terms of a plant-based story, it's not as bad as In the Forest of the Night.
That's true.
But that doesn't mean it's a good story. One of my least favourites of Tom. Nice to see Jacqueline Hill back one last time. Even if it isn't Barbara she was playing. A 3 out of 10.
3. God, they're getting lower.
Charlie does finish up by saying one of the most embarrassing Doctor Who stories ever made, if I'm honest.
No.
Harry Walker, another one of our writers on the team, says, fun ideas, but not the best episode of all time. I enjoy it way more than The Leisure Hive and Warrior's Gate from this season. Jacqueline Hill is superb as ever. An 8 out of 10 from Harry.
An 8?
Harry loving it, yeah.
Wow.
And lastly, Mark Hugill says, don't mind this one at all on a rewatch. Dodgy special effects and poorly made plants aside, it looks okay and is quite engaging. Like the cactus makeup. Remember seeing the Tom Baker Meglos waxwork back in the day at London's Madame Tussauds.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, rushed episode 4, but overall not as bad as its reputation suggests. Big thumbs up for the incidental music. A 7 out of 10.
Oh, 7. Okay, cool.
So the scores picked up a little bit there. So on average on Facebook, probably a 6. So overall, it's probably a 6, dude. The average for this one.
Yeah, let's go with 6. That sounds about right.
Let's go with a 6. Why not? Oh, crikey. Right, that's that one out the way.
That's done.
So we are not here next week. Adam is busy on his travels around the US. I might be doing a show next week if there's any decent news that lands. If not, then we'll just stick a pin in it and we'll do it when Adam's back. But when we are back, dude, what's our next review story?
Yeah, well, this has been a long time coming, actually, because was this the very first story you reviewed?
I think so. One of them, yeah.
Yeah, so back in the early days of the podcast before I joined, Garry did this story solo. We are now going to review it together for the first time, and it is the Third Doctor story, Spearhead from Space.
Ah, the first story for John Pertwee. So yeah, I did this solo back in... actually, this is a monumentous moment, as we haven't mentioned it yet, but the podcast is exactly 10 years old today as we're recording.
Today?
The 14th of March is when episode 1 went out into time and space.
My word.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a good one.
Where did those 10 years go? That's mad.
A decade, mate. We've been podcasting about Doctor Who. Crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, Spearhead from Space is going to be the next review story. So keep an eye on the socials for us asking for your reviews and your thoughts as always on that. And we'll read them all out as always. But yeah, that's it's going to be a good one, I think, to review that because we've spoken about this story an awful lot. We just haven't reviewed it.
I think it was episode 2 you did it. I've just Googled it. Looks like.
Episode 2, probably. Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. Nice. Wow. Alrighty. And I think on that note then, we'll end it there for episode 393.
Alrighty.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Big Blue Box podcast. That was episode 393. And thank you to all of you that sent in your thoughts and your scores on Meglos. Very much welcomed as always. Next time we record, as Adam said, our review story is going to be Spearhead from Space. So this is out on everything. So this is iPlayer, this is on DVD, this is on Blu-ray, this is, on all of them. So get that watched because I'll be asking for your thoughts as always. So keep an eye out on the socials for that. Until next time, make sure that you are following or subscribing to the Big Blue Box wherever you get your podcasts. That way you won't miss an episode when they land every single Friday. And you can also listen for free online at the website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. And while you're there, you can also read all of the reviews and articles from our fantastic writing team. And the recent ones are the event rundowns from Maria, who's doing those BFI event rundowns, and we've got some Big Finish reviews on the way as well. Also, don't forget to remember to subscribe to my co-host channel over on YouTube. It is, of course, The Geek's Handbag.
The Geek's Handbag, yes. Forget TikTok and get over to YouTube and check out my channel, The Geek's Handbag.
Indeedy. Loads of Doctor Who and geeky stuff over there, and Adam's on the socials under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. So give him a shout out there and chat all geeky stuff over there.
Indeed.
Okie dokie. Until next time then for episode 394. My name's Garry.
My name's Adam.
And remember... Lottie.